A massive loot train extends for miles and miles into the distance. Heading up the Roseroad from Highgarden to King's Landing, Lannister troops have bled the former Tyrell stronghold dry, and the wagons are full to bursting, some with gold and jewels, more with great stores of food, the last great stores of food to be found in Westeros before winter. We move further on up the loot train to find Randyll, then Jaime on horseback, triumphant in victory. But haunted by Olenna's revelation in the previous episode, Bronn approaches and rides alongside him. Jaime asks if he took the share promised him. Bronn nods, but frowns doing so. Jaime sighs, resigned. They're going to have this conversation again, are they? Hell the fuck yes. They're going to have this conversation, Bran replies. Jaime is incredulous.
He gave Bronn a very large bag of Highgarden gold. No, I'd earned it, Bronn replies. But more importantly, I'd earned a fucking castle. Jaime replies he's short of castles at the moment. What about that one? Bronn asks, pointing back to Highgarden. Jaime laughs. Bronn doesn't want Highgarden. Bronn begs to differ. Jaime patiently explains that the Lannisters can't hold Highgarden. Not now, anyway. Daenerys will surely take it back, and it's not worth fighting over now that they've plundered all its resources. Jaime reminds Bronn that the saying is, a Lannister always pays his debts. Not a Lannister always pays his debts quickly. His best hope of living in his dream castle is helping Jaime and Cersei defeat Daenerys. Talk turns to the future. Let's say we're able to beat Daenerys back. Bronn asks, what then? Does Jaime think he and Cersei can just rule happily, create a new dynasty, an age of prosperity? Why not? It's possible. Jaime replies. Jaime's seen enough war to last 2 lifetimes. When their enemies are finally destroyed, once and for all, there might just be a chance for a peaceful life. Bran's not convinced. The Lannisters have pissed off too many people for too many years. If Jaime thinks he'll ever be free of enemies, he's crazy. Cersei meets with Tyrell and Daenerys, along with Qyburn. Cersei informs Tyrell that hundreds of chests of Highgarden gold are on the way to King's Landing. The Lannisters' debt to the Iron Bank has been paid in full, with interest. Tyrell is delighted and, once again, impressed with Cersei's ingenuity. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. He supplies Cersei with a fat new line of credit to acquire and supply new, larger armies and navies. Qyburn already has made overtures to the Golden Company, a massive mercenary force in the east who will fight ruthlessly. If the price is right, Tyrell takes his leave, along with Qyburn. Bran snaps out of his vision. Mira is staring at him. He stares back at her for a moment. Bran's room is Spartan, undecorated, not homely. He sits in his new wheelchair. Mira clearly wants to say something but doesn't have the heart. But Bran already knows. You're leaving, he says, flatly. You're going back to Greywater Watch. Mira nods, tears welling up in her eyes. She misses her home and her father so much. It was her duty to make sure Jojen found Bran, and it was her duty to help Bran achieve his destiny and get home safely. But Bran doesn't need her anymore, and her duty must be to her family now. All Bran can do is stare at her, emotionless. Isn't he going to say anything? He says thank you. That's it. Mira doesn't know how to respond. Thank you. Her brother died for him. Hodor and Summer died for him. Mira nearly died getting him home. She endured unimaginable suffering and she still doesn't understand why. Bran wishes he could explain it to her, but he can't. He can only say thank you and goodbye. Mira stands, heartbroken. The Bran she loved died in that cave. Bran doesn't contradict her. She turns and walks out of the room, out of his life, and out of this series. Littlefinger watches Mira ride out alone from the courtyard. Time to strike. Bran sits in his room, per his usual, staring. He turns around when he senses a visitor. Littlefinger. Lord Baelish apologizes for disturbing Lord Stark. Bran responds that he is not Lord Stark. Littlefinger nods, a slight smile on his face, taking that statement in and weighing what it means, before pressing on. I've wanted to meet you for some time, Brandon. I knew your mother and father, and the uncle you were named for. Bran interrupts him, non-aggressive, still passive. You fought him in a duel because you loved my mother. He wounded you. Littlefinger is taken aback for a brief moment at Bran's interjection. Yes, he did love Bran's mother very much, and he is devoted to her children. He hopes Bran will come to rely on him as his sister has.
Bran continues to stare at Littlefinger. We might note that this is rather unnerving for Littlefinger. He's good at reading people's inner thoughts, but this kid is tough. Littlefinger presses on. What it must have been like for you, forced out of your ancestral home, wandering the wilds of the north. I can't imagine what horrors befell you there. Littlefinger is trying to get Bran to talk about his adventures. Give him some kind of clue about what happened and why he's acting the way he is, but nothing. It must be strange now, having to come back to Westeros at such a turbulent, chaotic time. Bran looks Littlefinger in the eye. Chaos is a ladder. Littlefinger is rarely shaken, but hearing this boy speak his own words back to him chills him to the core. But he recovers quickly, smiling his smile, and then he draws a dagger from his belt. Bran doesn't flinch, and it turns out there was no reason for him to. It immediately becomes apparent that Littlefinger doesn't intend to do Bran any harm. At least not in this scene. The dagger is a gift, a token of Littlefinger's esteem. Loyal viewers will recognize it as the dagger that was used for Bran's assassination attempt way back in episode 102. Littlefinger hands Bran the dagger, relating how the assassin tried to cut the comatose Bran's throat with it, how Catelyn bravely fought the assassin, and how the question of who this dagger belonged to led to war. He hopes the dagger will serve as a reminder for Bran that his mother loved him dearly. Bran informs Littlefinger he doesn't need a reminder, but he accepts the dagger just the same. Bran regards the dagger, thoughtfully, turning it over in his hands. He says nothing more to Littlefinger, who decides he's had enough of talking to this creepy kid for one day. He nods, respectfully, and exits the God's Wood. Bran continues to gaze at the Valyrian dagger, and his eyes roll back in his head for a Bran vision montage. Tyrion defending himself to Catelyn in the Vale. I had nothing to do with the attempt on your son's life. Catelyn giving the dagger to Littlefinger and Varys. There's only one dagger like this in King's Landing. It's mine. Sir Roderick examining the dagger in the God's Wood. The blade is Valyrian steel, the hilt dragonbone. The assassin attempting to kill Bran with the dagger, Catelyn fighting him of Summer saving the day, and, lastly, the final moments of episode 101. Bran stands in the tower observing the familiar scene as it plays out. He is finally able to see what happened, and who pushed him from that tower. He watches as his younger self is discovered by Jaime, watches as Jaime utters the things I do for love, watches as Jaime shoves him out. Brienne confronts Littlefinger. She isn't fooled by him. She knows he's up to something and she's watching him. Brienne sees it as protecting Sansa. But she's also doing this behind Sansa's back. A fact Littlefinger could point out. Littlefinger has just been rattled by Bran and now Brienne rattles Littlefinger a little bit more here. Dany and Missandei, with a Dothraki escort, walk, or ride slowly, along the beach. Dragonstone's castle can be seen behind them. Dany hasn't seen Jon since she agreed to let him look for the dragon lass. Jon has finally discovered the mother lode, working off Sam's map, and invited Dany to show it to her while it's still pristine. Before a bunch of grimy mining goes on, when they arrive at the mouth of the cave, being mined the old-fashioned way, they are greeted by Davos, who leads them down into an ancient, glorious cave, deep beneath the ground, a cave made of dragonlass. Torches have been set up throughout the space by Jon's men and their flickering flames play off the cave walls, giving the place a mystical, almost sacred quality. Dany and Missandei stand in awe of it. Jon Snow awaits them and greets Dany courteously. Jon had a specific reason he wanted Dany to visit this cave. Would he mind coming with her? What he has to show her is in a smaller area, which can, conveniently, only fit two. Dany hesitates for a beat but agrees to let Jon escort her. Jon, holding a torch, leads Dany into the smaller cave. He extends his hand to help her down. She regards it for a beat. She doesn't need his help, but takes it anyway. Eventually, they reach the back wall of the Dragonlass cave, which shimmers in the torchlight as Jon shows her what he's discovered. Markings on the wall. "I wish my friend Sam were here," Jon remarks. He'd probably be able to tell us exactly what they mean, but Jon knows his northern history enough to know the spiral rune-like markings were made by the first men and the children of the forest. Dany doesn't know about the children. The children of the forest and the first men fought each other for years, until they realized they had to band together to defeat the White Walkers. Jon's tone is different this time. He's not lecturing Dany or shouting at her. He's simply telling her the truth, as he sees it. Dany regards Jon. She finds his passion and sincerity appealing. There are subtle seeds of mutual attraction under the surface, but she doesn't commit to any more than he's already promised. Jon and Davos escort Dany and Missandei out of the mine and they step out onto the beach to find Tyrion and Varys, waiting for them, looking very unhappy. Word has arrived from Great Worm. He's taken Easterly Rock. Dany wonders why Tyrion is delivering this as bad news. Tyrion explains that Jaime played him. He let Dany's Unsullied take Easterly Rock without a fight while the Lannister force sacked Highgarden. Now the Unsullied must march across the continent to return home. Olenna Tyrell is dead. House Tyrell is no more, and the wealth of Highgarden is being plundered. An impromptu Dany council meeting begins then and there, on the beach. Dany is stunned, and she's pissed. Jon tries to bow out of the conversation. This is not his fight, but Dany wants him to stay. The White Walkers might be coming, but Cersei is waging war now. The Lannisters have taken out all of Dany's Westerosi allies while she sits here on Dragonstone doing nothing. She has a massive army and, more importantly, 3 huge motherfucking dragons. It's time she used them. Tyrion urges her not to do this. A dragon attack will only work if he's riding one of them, leading the charge. Dany can risk making herself an open target. And there's the perception issue to consider, as well. What will Dany look like if she sets these dragons loose on the capital, or anywhere in Westeros, or even on Lannister soldiers? She'll be starting her reign from a place of fear, not love, and she needs the people's love if she hopes to rule effectively. Tyrion wants her to commit to the long game. The best course is to call Great Worm and the Unsullied back and lay siege to King's Landing as planned. Dany asks Jon what he thinks. Jon replies that these dragons are magnificent creatures, the stuff of legend. He never thought he'd see one in the flesh, and they're even more extraordinary than he dreamed, and it was Dany who gave them life. He can't believe she did this so they could be used to burn towns, kill innocents, or even roast foot soldiers. They have a higher purpose. She has a higher purpose. Dany, weighing the choice before her, glances upwards at her dragons in the distance, patrolling the skies. Arya Stark stares at Winterfell looming ahead on the crest of a snowy hill, a home she hasn't seen in years and a lifetime. She pulls her cloak tighter against the cold and presses on. Winterfell Gate. Arya approaches the gate, barely noticing the two young guards until they bar her path. No strangers permitted in the castle in winter. Arya could easily kill these two nitwits. But instead she declares that she's Arya Stark of Winterfell, come home at last. The guards look at each other and laugh. Arya Stark is dead. Arya tells them to send for Maester Luwin or Sir Roderick. They can vouch for her identity. Neither guard knows who those people are. Must be dead. Or made up. Arya asks for Jon Snow, her brother, the king in the north. The guards do know who he is, but unfortunately he's not in Winterfell. Arya is getting fed up, and the idea of knifing these two guys is more and more appealing. One last chance for them. She asks who's in charge of Winterfell while Jon's gone. Lady Stark. Arya is confused for a moment. Lady Stark always meant mother to her. Which Lady Stark? She asks. The guards regard her as one would regard an idiot. Lady Sansa Stark. Arya didn't know Sansa was home, much less ruling it. Tell Lady Sansa that her sister is home. The guards think this crazy little girl is probably full of shit. But if he's not full of shit, they're gonna get in trouble. They open the gate. Winterfell courtyard. The guards tell Arya to sit there, right there. As the guards argue for a few seconds over who has to go tell Lady Sansa about this, Arya takes in the courtyard. She has probably thought about this place every single day, for years. The Stark banner flapping on the walls, Stark soldiers pushing a supply cart through the snow, the catwalk balcony where her father used to stand. When she left this place, she was a little girl. She is a little girl no longer? The guards finally settle on who has to go tell Sansa about this girl. When they turn back to Arya, she is no longer there. Jon's office. The two guards have just reported to Sansa. It looks bad for them. They told the girl to wait, and she just vanished, somehow. She was probably an imposter. They promise they'll find her. But if the girl was really Arya, Sansa knows where she would go first. Winterfell Crypt. Arya stares up at the statue of her dead father, without turning. Do I have to call you Lady Stark now? Behind Arya, Sansa freezes. How did Arya know she was there? Of course not. Arya turns and looks over Sansa. It suits you. Arya smiles at Sansa and Sansa smiles back, but it's awkward. Especially since neither of them moves toward the other. They were never the hugging type. After a beat, Arya turns back to the statue and says that the last time she saw Sansa was at the sept, for their father's execution. Sansa didn't know Arya was in the crowd. Sansa doesn't know a lot of things about Arya, like where she's been or what she's been doing. Arya assumes Sansa should understand. She killed Joffrey after all, didn't she? Sansa uncomfortably admits she didn't. Not in the way Arya means. Arya is disappointed. Finally Sansa embraces Arya and Arya returns it. Because it doesn't matter how they were as kids, they're sisters and grown up, and it's all different now when they move apart. Arya looks around the crypt. Is Bran down here too? Sansa averts her eyes. Bran's not dead, he's come home, too. Well, kind of. Arya wants to know what Sansa means. What's wrong? God's Wood. Sansa brings Arya to the God's Wood. It's covered with a thick blanket of snow. She has told Arya all about Bran's new abilities and persona on the way here, so we don't need to go over it again. Bran sits in his wheelchair, staring at the weirwood tree. Bran? Arya calls out tentatively as the sisters approach, asking if anybody's home. Bran is unsurprised to see Arya. You're early. I thought the storm would slow you down. Arya looks at Sansa, who shrugs. Told ya, he's a weirdo. Arya sees a glint, and finds the dragonbone dagger. Arya's eyes widen. She knows her blades, and recognizes a priceless artifact discarded like a child's toy. This is Valyrian steel. Where did you get this? No answer from Bran. Bran is bored of talking about things he already knows, and he knows everything. Littlefinger thought I'd want it. Sansa doesn't like Littlefinger having private conversations with her brother, or anyone. Littlefinger is not that generous. Why did he give it to you? She asks. Because it was meant to kill me. Arya and Sansa share a look. Bran could as well be talking about the weather for all the emotion this elicits from him. Arya asks Bran if he knows who wanted him dead, and Bran says number. Arya prods Bran. He could find out if he wanted, though, couldn't he? Bran admits he could. He probably will. At some point. His lack of concern with vengeance mystifies Arya, thanks to the Faceless Men. Arya isn't as unaccustomed to magic or as disturbed by it as Sansa. Magic is just another tool. And here is her brother, possibly the single most magical being on the planet. Why isn't Bran doing more to help their family? Arya can think of 100 ways she'd use Bran's powers better than him. Echoing S6 Bran, she wouldn't just lie in bed. Bran blankly watches Arya work herself up. He calmly tells her he doesn't care who wanted him dead. Because that man doesn't matter. Her list doesn't matter. Winterfell doesn't matter. House Stark doesn't matter. Only the war to come. Growing up, Arya and Bran enjoyed the childish intimacy that comes of similar age. But Arya tried and couldn't be no one. She's Arya Stark of Winterfell. Damn it, when she hears Bran say none of that matters, she knows they're so far apart in worldview that there can be no coming together. Sad, but life. Arya looks at Sansa. Time to go. She hands the dagger back to Bran, but he refuses it. He's sure Arya will find more of a use for it than he will. Arya nods and thanks Bran. Sansa watches Arya place the dagger in her belt. Winterfell courtyard. Arya and Sansa wheel Bran into the courtyard. Whatever we are, whatever we've become, we're together. Everyone around them is happy to see the Stark kids reunited. Brienne watches them from a distance. Pod remarks on how Brienne fulfilled her oath to Catelyn Stark. Brienne is happy. Elsewhere in the courtyard, an unhappy Littlefinger watches Sansa reunited with her siblings. Can't keep a good Stark down. But Daenerys, he's going to try. Dragonstone, a handful of ships sail into the harbor flying the Greyjoy Kraken. Missandei and Jon share a look. As far as they know, all of Yara's fleet was destroyed, and these aren't fleet enough to be the Iron Fleet. Jon and Missandei head down to see what the waves washed in Dragonstone Gate. As he enters the courtyard, Jon hears the gate being raised. That's odd. He hurries over to the gate to find Theon entering with a few Ironborn, including Harag. Jon is surprised to see Theon, but not as much as Theon is to see Jon. From Jon's face, Theon realizes he was right not to go to Castle Black with Sansa. Jon says he thought Theon died in Euron's attack, and Jon's tone says that it wasn't an unpleasant thought. Theon acknowledges he should have died, but here he is, story of his life. He reveals that Euron took Yara prisoner and he's come to ask for Dany's help to get her back. Jon considers Theon, and asks why Euron didn't take him too. Harag thinks this is a good question, but for Theon this is an awkward question, as Jon suspected it would be. Jon lets Theon hang for a moment, then says that whatever the case, Daenerys isn't here. Theon is confused. Where is she? Blackwater Rush. Jaime and Bronn watch the loot train snaking into King's Landing a mile or so away. Randyll rides up, grumpy. He doesn't like turning so many soldiers into wagoneers. It's stretching their patrols too thin. Jaime agrees. But without Highgarden's wealth and food they won't have an army to patrol. Randyll reports that almost half the wagons have entered King's Landing. A few more wagons, and the city will be able to withstand a siege as long as winter. Jaime is sure Cersei will be very happy to hear this. A shadow darkens their faces. They look up to see Daenerys Targaryen and Dragon dive out of the sky and strafe the loot train with dragon flame. Chaos ensues. Wagons, horses, and men go up in flames or are just blasted into ash. Several dedicated shots show the wagons stuffed with food going up in flames. To make matters worse, thousands of Dothraki screamers crest a ridge in the distance, riding hard and howling for blood. Jaime springs into action and jumps on his horse. They have to get as many wagons as possible into the city. He orders Randyll to take the rear guard and defend the train against the Dothraki, and he orders Bronn to deal with the dragon, gesturing to a covered wagon. Jaime will hold this bridge, the only one across the river for miles. The Lannister army is feared for good reason. They quickly pull out pikes and shields and form battle lines to meet the Dothraki charge. The professional soldiers may not be fazed by the Dothraki horde bearing down on them. But nobody has seen a dragon in hundreds of years, much less fought one. The Lannister lines break whenever Dany and Dragon approach with the flamethrower, and with each passing moment, the Dothraki get closer. Arrows whiz past Dany's head like a swarm of angry bees, close enough for her to realize Tyrion may have had a good point. Suddenly a huge bolt sails past Dragon. Dany looks down and sees Bronn standing beside Qyburn's anti-dragon ballista. Up and down the line, covers are pulled off wagons to reveal half a dozen more ballistas. Dany throws Dragon into evasive maneuvers. High ground. Tyrion watches the battle unfold from a high vantage point. He does not like all these arrows flying at his queen, nor those anti-dragon guns that he did not anticipate. Blackwater River, another gun fires on Dragon. Misses. A third gun fires on Dragon, another miss, but closer. Dany starts to worry this thing might work. Bronn's gun fires again, and Dragon is hit. The arrow sticks out of his side, then Dragon claws the arrow away. It didn't penetrate his hide. It did make him angry. Bronn leaps off the wagon as Dragon turns and blasts the anti-dragon guns to shit. The Dothraki now slam into the Lannister army like a tidal wave. We finally see the Dothraki in action. Mongol-style archery on the move, 3 arrows at once. Trick riding, showing off for each other, dropping down out of the saddle to behead a fallen soldier, smacking the masked heads around like buzz-cashy players. Jaime sees that the tail end of the train is lost. He circles the remaining wagons around the entrance to the bridge. Like Old West settlers against the Apaches, Randall is a damn good soldier and he's determined to stand his ground and fight until the end. Bronn's not. He knows a lost cause when he sees one. Thanks to Randall delaying the Dothraki, Bronn escapes into Jaime's cordon at the entrance of the bridge. Jaime and Bronn know they're fucked, thanks to the Dothraki and Dany. The loot train on one side of the bridge is a morass of burning wagons and screaming men, but like the Viking who held Stamford Bridge against the Saxons, Jaime is determined to buy the wagons behind them enough time to get into the city, until Dragon blasts the wagon cordon apart, and the Dothraki pour through the gap. Jaime, Bronn and the Lannister soldiers fall back, slicing and dicing as they're being pushed towards the center of the bridge. Dragon screams past overhead and lands at the other end of the bridge. The Lannisters have a choice. Dothraki, or Dragon. The smart soldiers dive into the Blackwater River. The smarter soldiers do so and know how to swim. The smartest soldiers realize that knowing how to swim and being able to swim in armor are two different things, and surrender. Jaime and Dany lock eyes. He obviously knows who she is, and she can guess who he is. The man who stabbed her father in the back. Behind Dany, Jaime can see the last of the wagons hurtling for the city gates. Jaime needs to keep Dany from turning her attention to them. The only distraction at hand is himself. Jaime tightens his grip on the reins. High ground. Tyrion knows his brother well enough to realize he's about to do something stupid. He loves Dany. He wants her to win the Iron Throne. He does not want to watch her kill his brother. Blackwater River. Jaime charges at Dany and Drogon. Drogon opens his toothy maw and coils back. No flame. He wants some Lannister tartar. Just before Drogon strikes, Bronn dives in from the side, and tackles Jaime off his horse and over the side of the bridge. They tumble into the Blackwater rush as Drogon fries both their horses. The rapids rush Jaime and Bronn away from the bridge in battle. Bronn holding them underwater. Above them the water's surface boils and steams under Dragonflorn. Drogon does not like missing meals. Drowned men float alongside them. Jaime looks down and sees an even sadder sight. Living soldiers trapped on the river bottom. Their armor too heavy to swim. Their eyes look up at Jaime, beseeching him for a help he can't give. As they drown,